Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World is an anime from Studio Passione. Out of their more than 24 titles, they're probably best known for Roka, Braves of the Six Flowers. This anime was directed by Naoyuki Tatsuya, probably best known for being one of the directors on Nisekoi. This anime is based on a light novel and manga of the same name. The story for both was done by Shachi Sogano, who doesn't have any other credits to their name. The art for the light novel was done by Douji Shiki, best known for doing the art for Full Metal Panic. The art for the manga was done by Issei Hyoju, and it's become their most well-known work. Michio Kaga wakes up in a VR barn. He's fallen asleep playing a new game. He walks outside to find the village attacked by bandits. Then he goes and kills a bunch. And then he's like, alright, that was fun. Time to log out. Then he realizes, oh crap, I'm stuck in the game. Then he makes his way to the nearby city where he meets ya boy, Alan, who is a slaver. Alan's like, hey yo, I got this 16-year-old virgin wolf girl. She's combat and sex ready. I'll sell her to you for $400,000. Michio's like, shit, looks like I gotta get the cash. What follows is a story full of action, sex, and some isekai slice of life stuff. The gore in this show was the one thing I enjoyed most. Early on in the show, Michio fights other humans and he cuts them to bits. His sword is so sharp that he can practically just set it down on things to cut them. The gore added a dark tone to the show, and while it didn't look super amazing, it was something that breathed life into what otherwise would have been a pretty dull experience for me. There's just something so satisfying to my lizard brain about seeing enemies get decapitated in battle. Unfortunately, later on in the show, he starts fighting monsters, which he just hits, and then they dissipate out of reality. Not very gory or fun. Anyway, that's it for praise. Time to talk about some cringe. Alright, so remember that 16-year-old virgin wolf girl? Well, Michio ends up buying her and having sex with her. Albeit consensually, but sex with a slave nonetheless. How can Michio do this? Well, in this game world, every person has a little identifier card attached to them, which will indicate whether you're a slave or a bandit or a normie. It's kind of presumed that a slave cannot be freed unless their master dies. And in most cases, slaves just die with their master. Okay, so Michio's like, listen, if I don't buy them, someone else will. And I'll treat them better than most, which is true. It is also made clear that the girls consent to the sex. Now clearly, they were raised to consent to being sold off to a strange man who would no doubt have sex with them, which is messed up, but I don't know, kind of sounds like what some people might say what happened back in the day where daughters would be sold off. But I'm no historian. What I can say is that the sex slave stuff just kind of makes me feel sick. It'd be a lot cooler if Michio didn't make advances on her, and in fact would reject her advances until he thought she loved him. There are people alive in this world today who are sex slaves. The vast majority of sex slaves across all of time and history, I can imagine, do not consent. So even though Michio's logic makes some sense in the world he inhabits, it makes me cringe because I think he's too forceful with his slave, and I can't help but think of the many people in history and in our time who have and who continue to suffer through sex slavery. Overall, as you can imagine, I was not a big fan of this show. The gore was cool for a while, and you know what? There was a little bit of interesting intrigue of him tracking these bandits early on. But the sex slavery was cringe, and everything else was either this isekai figuring out the world stuff, or this more slice of life stuff, neither of which are really my cup of tea. If you enjoyed this anime, I'm honestly happy for you. I just, human trafficking is just not that cool to me. That's pretty much everything I have to say about this show. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Alright, just a couple comments here from yesterday's video. Peekaboo says, I am your biggest fan. Thank you, Peekaboo. You do leave more comments more often and before anyone else, generally, most of the time. So you're definitely up there, key contender for that position. Small Man says, when did YouTube comments get emotes? I don't know, let me look that up. I'm not gonna look that up. That sounds like I'm just not that interested in answering that question for you, I'll be honest. Google exists, my friend. But yeah, you don't see them that often. I feel like they'd use it more. Like you'd think you'd see it more in YouTube comments, but you just don't. Maybe it's because early on they didn't have it, and now there's a bunch of people that don't do it, so you just don't see it. I don't know. I've been talking for longer about the comments now than I have about the one thing I liked about this anime. So that's it for me. I've been Roman Romantic. Have a good one. Bye.